Some seeds absolutely refuse to germinate without a heat mat. Other seeds don't need a heat mat to germinate. Some seeds benefit from a heat mat, particularly if you're falling behind. And others, if you put a heat mat to them, despite the fact that you're recommended to put a heat mat to them, you end up with a sicker, weaker plant. So you probably shouldn't put a heat mat on it. All of it's very confusing. So today's video, we're going to look at exactly that. Heat mats, the ins and outs, when to use them, when not to use them, what seeds they work with, which ones they don't. You name it, all science-based, of course, as always. If you don't know who I am, my name is Ashley. I have a Bachelor of Science in Soil Science. I like to take that science and apply it to all things plants and soil. And when it comes to heat mats, this is a world that I've toyed in for several years now, most of which I maybe use it once a year on a tray of 72 plants. That's it. Otherwise, vast majority of my seeds are germinated without it. Unless, of course, I'm falling behind, then that's a different conversation. But what I love most about this topic is that there is a lot of misinformation about it, which is also why I like Brilliant. Brilliant, if you don't know what it is an app on your phone that you can use to actually help you learn how to learn. So there's no more of that memorizing. All of this is actually training your brain or exercising your brain in a way to help you decipher information off of the interwebs. The main premise here is that you're learning to understand systems, cause and effects, variables, signals. For example, like how seeds respond to temperature as a signal to when it needs to germinate, so it doesn't germinate too soon or too late, resulting in a dead plant. Two of my favorite Brilliant courses include scientific thinking and probability and chance. Those are the two courses that help you keep sharp when it comes to topics specifically like this, or the ones that are most relevant for you as a gardener who's wanting to learn. So for example, it helps you be able to identify patterns and variables that cause a shift or a change, which in turn allows you to navigate all the information you get from the internet about gardening and pivot as necessary. Because unfortunately, when it comes to gardening, there are too many variables that change too many things. So even if you're reading like an actual scientific journal, and from that scientific journal, you followed kind of all the precise fertilizer, water, seed, everything, if the pressure is wrong for too many days in a row, as weird as that sounds, it can result in a different result in regards to whatever was studied. So that's kind of what makes plant and soil science so fun, but also so frustrating, is that it's very hard to perfectly replicate over and over again, particularly when we're talking about an outdoor environment and not one of those enclosed labs. Brilliant helps you actually excel in this along with coding or math with step-by-step interactive lessons and personalized practice. The courses have been built by world-class leaders in MIT, Google, Harvard, and it is literally designed from ages 10 to 100. There's a lot of people in the Geek Crew that have purchased this for their kids, and there's a lot of people in the Geek Crew that have purchased it for themselves. To learn for free on Brilliant for a full 30 days, go to brilliant.org/gardening in Canada. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. Brilliant is also giving our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Now let's apply all that exact thinking to heat mats. So here's a core concept when it comes to heat mats. Seeds respond to soil temp. They don't respond to ambient temperatures. So heat mats do some really fundamental things by bringing the temperature up within the seed. First off, it triggers enzyme reactions. This increased enzyme activity in the seed means more action in the seed. It speeds up metabolic reactions that have been temporarily slowed down by these cooler temps. This is particularly true when we're talking about some of the seeds that we maybe have outdoors right now. It also helps improve membrane fluidity. So the ability for things like air and water to move in and out of the seed via its belly button, for lack of a better term. Because who wants to use scientific terms, if we're being totally honest? Not to mention temperature. Just how we use temperature signals to the seed what time of year it is. We use temperature to signal to us what time of year it is. Seeds use the exact same. You can actually figure out what temperature each seed needs to germinate at by simply Googling temperature for seed germination, and it will give you a list or a range of temperatures in which each seed needs to be at in order to germinate. And in some cases, if you're not starting indoors and you're starting outdoors, you may want to grab a soil temp thermometer. I actually highly recommend grabbing a soil temp thermometer and then utilizing that to help you determine when it's time to put your seeds outdoors so they don't just simply rot in the soil. So let's first go over the seeds that cannot germinate without a heat mat. These are the ones that are designed to germinate in late spring or only in summer. Before that, the seed is saying not yet. What happens if we choose to not use a heat mat with these seedlings is kind of two options. Option number one is that we have water in that cell. We have the humidity dome, we have wet soil, and this in turn results in the seed rotting because we've increased enzymatic activity not only in the seed, but also decomposition and just microbe activity within the soil itself. Because we've talked about this before in the channel, biofilm. And the biofilm, any nurse or doctor on this channel is like, oh yeah, that's biofilm. We know this as like the place where microbes hang out. The good, the bad, you name it, they all are there. And so when we add water to our soil, we have a home for microbes. And this means that decomposition takes place. And unfortunately, decomposition doesn't necessarily limit itself to very specific areas within that seed cell. It's just going to kind of go after whatever's there. And so unfortunately, the seed can be one of those things that's there, and it's so not doing anything in this case that it will just eat away at it. Now, the secondary option to this is maybe you don't have it soaking wet, you have it wet-ish, and you're just misting the surface of the soil. But what happens is the seed is slow to germinate. So if you're very confident in your ability to correctly water and not overwater, cause anaerobic conditions in particular, then you could technically get away with starting this set of seeds indoors without a mat, so long as you start them earlier than what you normally would, because the time for all those enzymatic reactions to kind of build up or snowball enough to cause the roots to form and germination to take place takes longer to get there because the enzymatic activity, that membrane fluidity, is kind of at a snail's pace for an extended period of time rather than a rapid pace that we would normally see when there's heat on them. So the ones that I would say absolutely need a heat mat land somewhere between like 24 to 30 degrees Celsius on average. This is 75 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, this is the soil, not the ambient air. Peppers. Now, this is particularly true for hots and super hots. Bell peppers, you can get away with not using a heat mat so long as you start them earlier than what you normally would, 2 to 3 weeks earlier than what you normally would. And you also don't oversaturate them or put them in an anaerobic condition. Eggplants, okra are two that absolutely do need it. Tomatoes is one of those that technically you could use it with. And if you do use it with, I would say your germination rates get pretty darn close to 100%. I know that seems very ambitious, but it's true. Without it, your germination is like slightly slower. I wouldn't say it's like majorly slow, but your germination percentage, I would say, goes down. So the more seeds just don't make it to the baby stage. So if you've got like an excessive level of tomato seeds, there's no reason why you couldn't get away with just not using the heat mat in this case. Then the other ones that I will say need it include any sort of flower. So we're talking snapdragons, petunias, anthemums. All of these I find personally need that heat mat. In particular, they need the heat mat combined with just vermiculite, not potting soil. And this is because it allows for really airy environment that doesn't go anaerobic so things don't rot, but it also allows for like a really even distribution of heat. Now, the thing is with these guys is that if you choose to put heat onto them, once they germinate, you're going to remove that heat source. And it's not when the first one germinates, but when about half to like 75% germinate, you're going to pull that heat mat off. And then the other 50%/25% are just they're going to catch up eventually, no problem. And the reason for this is because even that heat mat being added to plants that need it or would benefit from it will result in leggier, weaker plants, in particular the roots and the stems. So to prevent against that, we want to make sure we remove them from that heat source immediately once they germinate. and put them back to regular soil temp, it actually doesn't harm the seedling. It's literally just the seed that needs that heat. If you continue to keep heat on them, they're going to rapidly grow and expand without the correct lighting, without the correct nutrients, without the correct water, without the correct space. You're going to end up with a spindly, sick plant that has really long internodes. So the space between each leaf is elongated or overexpressed, if you will. So to not allow that to happen, you remove that heat mat. Okay, so seeds that don't need a heat mat in any capacity, but respond well to a heat mat include the ones in this category. So essentially, these ones can tolerate cooler soil and will germinate in cooler soil, but will germinate more uniformly or at higher levels when heat is applied. So these temperature ranges is between 18 to 24 degrees Celsius or 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the nice part about these is that you don't necessarily need a heat mat to get in this kind of wheelhouse temperature. You could technically just put them in a warmer room with a space heater, and that is sometimes enough to try to get that extra boost. Or the lights. If you've got like the old school incandescent lighting that gives off a little bit of heat, or some of these LED lights now, they get relatively hot, that may be enough heat to allow for that. And that again comes down to having that soil temp thermometer or some sort of thermometer to help gauge that when necessary. Because if we have ambient heat plus a heat mat, we can end up with too much heat, and then that we have the opposite of that. So we want to make sure we're staying under that 25 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius mark. So we're talking about things like cucumbers, squash, melons, beans, corn, sunflowers, zinnias. All of these will benefit from a warmer soil. And by benefit, I mean it just is more uniform germination. We want to make sure we immediately cut off that heat source, however, once everything has germinated. And this one I would for sure cut off the heat source at about 50% germination, because if we don't, we're going to end up with some leggy. Okay, so this is the category where heat mats should not be used for seed at all. The reason for this is because it's going to cause a number of different issues, but mainly it's going to cause three big things. First off, it could trigger a secondary dormancy. So because it's so warm, the seed is like, whoa, we're in the middle of summer right now. We can't germinate. If we germinate, we're headed into winter, and I'm not going to be able to produce babies fast enough to make that happen. We're not jackrabbits up in here. So that's one reason why we wouldn't use heat. And this includes ambient heat as well. So if you've got really hot LED lights, if you've got a really warm room. And so these ones you actually may want to put in the basement, the garage, put them in a separate room where you're not running as many lights, for example, that sort of thing. And then the other two is delayed germination, again, because it is trying to gauge where we're at, or just seed death, like you're just roasting them, for lack of a better term. So these guys like temperatures around 4 to 15 degrees Celsius, soil temps around 4 to 15 degrees Celsius, or 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes, that is below room temperature. These are the guys that you want to sow outdoors, typically long before your first frost date or your last frost date, because they do well in those cooler soils. They do much better in those cooler soils than they do in the warmer soils that you would have by the time your last frost date does hit. This is a long list. We've got spinach, lettuce, kale, arugula, peas, cilantro, parsley, radish, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, radicchios, turnips, you name it. There's a long list of those guys. Lettuce is a great example of this. These guys don't like to germinate anywhere over 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm getting better at being American for my American Geek Crew folk. I'll tell you that much. That was my best American accent I could ever do. So you can't ask for more from me. I could probably do more. That is discrimination. You guys do not all sound like the South. That is rude. You're like a mix of several different accents. Okay, so this next category are the seeds that aren't necessarily impeded by that heat mat, but are straight up killed by the heat mat. So do not put them in a warm room. Do not put them under a warm light. Do not put them on a heat mat. Very poor choice, because they will die. And these ones are actually the ones with the thin seed coating. So these seedlings have adapted to having a thin seed coat. for the purpose of cool adaptation. And therefore, once you put heat on it, you're going to cook the enzymes inside because there's not much of a buffer for that seed. So this can include things like poppies, larkspur, delphinium, and then a number of native perennials. And these ones actually quite commonly are best germinated, sometimes even in the fridge, because they're incredibly sensitive to heat. And keep in mind, things like poppies, for example, don't transplant well. So they are best served starting outdoors, direct sown. These are great candidates for winter sowing in the milk jugs. If you ever wonder which ones should be winter sown, that last category that I did, the ones that don't need the heat or you shouldn't use heat with, it's not going to like kill them, but you could go without the heat mat for. Combined with this category are the ones that you want to think about winter sowing with. So the takeaways from this are you're going to want to go get a soil temp thermometer. I think I mention this every year repeatedly this time of year because it is such a valuable, inexpensive tool to grab that will save you a ton of money, a ton of headache, and a ton of guesswork. Very important. Number 2 is that you could probably get away without a heat mat so long as you start things a little bit earlier and you are careful with how much water you're using. If you do have a heat mat, you may want to actually consider getting one with a thermometer or a gauge on it that allows you to set the temperature so you actually land in the ranges that are best suited to that plant. That's particularly true, say you're in that third category, where you're in that second category where it's above room temperature. Sometimes, particularly if we're talking about like a drafty basement, drafty greenhouse, garage, drafty window, and you know it's not always within that range and it could dip down below that range and, the nighttime at night and that sort of thing. Using that temperature mat, the mat with the temperature gauge on it, can help enormously with helping to stabilize those temps, which in turn helps more with that proper germination or accurate germination. Another thing I will say that I didn't mention is that anything that requires that heat that you want to start on a heat mat, you want to use your short classic cells or your classic soil block, your peat pods, that sort of thing. We don't want to use like big, deep containers because there's not enough oomph for those little heat mats to get up that high into the soil system. So we want to start them in those nice little cells and then bump them up because otherwise it's just useless. It's just a waste of power and time and frustration for sure. Anyways, you guys have to let me know in the comments down below if you typically are using heat mats or if you kind of go without and just start things earlier. I'd be interested to know. Like I said, I do usually one cell of 72 seeds, all of which are like a mix of like tomatoes and peppers. And that's it. Otherwise, I don't really use it. I shouldn't say that. I'll also use it if I am doing like petunias or some of those flowers. If I'm doing more flowers that season, I will also use it. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.